every week. It's something to do in our retirement. Have any of you been to Rottnest before?
Yeah.
You have? Right. Are you a local from Perth? Right, okay. You got anybody else from Perth? Oh, you're all together. Okay, right. And you're from New York? You're all from New York. Okay. Have you done any other tours on the island? Because we can tell you other things as we're going along.
Okay, yeah.
We'll tell you a little bit about the history, but if you've heard it, put your fingers in your ears. Otherwise, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm presuming you all caught the ferry across this morning or earlier. If you come 7,000 years ago, you could have walked across because Rottnest was connected to the mainland.
Yes.
But since then, the seas have risen and now we've got the reefs all around and about 19-20 kilometres of ocean between here and the mainland. But this place was settled in 1831 is when people started coming here. Western Australia was only settled in 1829, and when people started coming to Rottnest, it was actually set up for a lease for farmland, and we had various people, including Mr. Thompson. The Thompson's Bay is named after. He took one of the first leases up here and was farming on the island. It was a combination of things. They had sheep. They weren't very successful with sheep, but they did grow quite a few crops, and wheat and barley. They produced a lot for the mainland to start with. It's quite amazing how much they did. But very quickly, the fertility of the soil went downhill. You know, it had thousands of years of guano and bird poo and the likes. And then, as there weren't natural fertilisers weren't fertilisers being applied, the island didn't produce the great quantities of food for a very long time. But they had pigs and...
Oh, they had horses. They were actually supplying horses to the mainland.
Yeah, they did breed a few horses for the police force. But at the end of the 1830s, they stopped the farming and it became a prison, basically for Aboriginal prisoners here. So the clash of the cultures that was happening on the mainland, we suddenly had the Europeans were fencing off all the waterways and everything. The Europeans had brought in their animals. The Aboriginal people thought, a new type of kangaroo or something, and were spearing the sheep, and it was just a complete clash of cultures. Instead of jailing the people in the Fremantle jails, they elected to send them to Rottnest, where they thought that it would be a little bit freer. Who knows? Anyway, we shall walk on. If you've got questions, certainly ask. This place here was originally built as a salt store, because that was a really important industry for when you said, what did they farm? They actually farmed salt. They gathered salt in one of the early industries here.
No, because I'm watching a tour. Okay. What's a check here? Here's.
That very first building there was the first building built in Rottnest. It was built by the superintendent of the prison.
What did they use it for?
That is where the head jailer lived, and behind this side is the actual first prison. Head down here. This section in the middle here was a farmyard based on the English farm, where you had for animals in the middle between the houses. And the shop is actually a hay store.
How many Aboriginals were estimated to have been here when the English first came, do you know?
There were no Aboriginals living on the island.
We're not in Yennel.
Oh. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you, and I'm not sure whether Mr. Google would be able to give you a reason. Certainly they've estimated that there was somewhere about 3,100 Aboriginal prisoners came through the island.
So there probably were more than there are now in Poland. Because isn't the Aboriginal population about 350,000?
No, I think it's a bit higher than that. And I would say the Aboriginal population was a lot less then.
Huh?
A lot less. If you haven't already been there, that museum is a really interesting place to go into. That was a grain store, that building, and you can actually see that edge is slightly rounded, about where the door is, and they had a big wheel in there, the grinding stone, and so the grain was actually crushed in there. We're looking at the quokkas.
What is that bird?
We're not allowed to call him a crow. He's a Swan River raven.
Yes.
We were
Stop crows over in the farmland.
They're yeah.
Excuse me. Do you know where the golf course is?
Yes.
Oh, you're better off going down this way. Yep. It's about over there. Go this way and end up over there.
Yep, alright. Thank you.
Do all crows in Australia sound that way? Or just
They don't sound like that in America.
Aussie accent.
They're all talking to one another. There's a gentleman called Eric Crumb. And he actually says when they're saying this,
I think I can see a quokka down there. Quokkas are they're from the macropod family, the big-footed family. They have the kangaroos, the wallabies. But the quokka only lives on Rottnest, and there's another population down on Bald Island, which is an island down off Albany. And there's a few very small populations that you might find in the bush, sort of the back of Collie and around that area. But these ones are from a very small gene pool, and although there's a lot of quokkas, the genetics is, yeah, pretty small. Yeah, there's probably they did the last quokka count they did back in 1999, and that was based on Rottnest.
He doesn't know what he means.
And they reckon, yeah, it's anywhere between, now they're saying anywhere between 7, 8, 12,000. There's certainly, the population came right down when it was used as a prison, because a lot of people, well, they got rid of a lot of the vegetation, and there were also a lot hunted and eaten. No, so it's, quokkas are nocturnal. So when you see them in the daylight, they're a bit, they look a little bit like they're drunk or sleepy or something. But yeah, basically they come out and feed at night. You'll find them around here. They love these trees, which are not native to this area. This is a Moreton Bay tree. I think this one's got a close cousin, the Port Jackson fig. There's fruit on it. And the quokkas come down and love eating it. Let's walk on. We should be able to find more over here.
were the Aboriginals on this island when the English first settled?
No.
No.
No. The Australian Aboriginals, certainly from this area, was not a sea-going person. They didn't use boats. They were land-dwellers. And so when the sea rose 6.5 to, they haven't got an exact estimate, let's say 7,000 years ago, that was when the Aboriginal people were living on the mainland and didn't live here. There's just been some recent finds in the limestone areas, and they've found a couple of early tools, including a stone tool from the Aboriginal population, and they're talking about dating them, and they're saying it's anywhere between 17,000 and 40,000 years old. So when it's still connected? Yeah, it would have been still connected, and they're...
My favourite there. Yeah. Little parakeet.
Okay, write it down. Thank you.
Does might want to get off the road.
Yeah, that might be a good
No,
idea.
I'm just going to lay down on the road, Alex.
I'm sorry if this question is I'm from a different country. But the northern Australia, the natives were like Polynesians, right? Or,
We'll put them in
or
it.
Indonesian.
You have to.
They could have come from there.
But they're different genetically than the Aboriginals, right?
What? The Aboriginals up north? Well, the Aboriginals are Aboriginals, so they've been interbred.
So they're all different. They're all different tribes,
Yeah.
and they're not all one thing. They speak different languages, and they don't actually like each other. So that's when we chuck them all in one spot and said, "You're Aboriginals, you'll be happy."
Yeah.
And obviously they're not.
No.
And the thing
So they
I
didn't
find,
mix the genetic pool.
Yeah.
They're distinct.
and there's 365 languages. So these guys were sent over to the island. They couldn't speak to each other. You know, they could communicate whatever, but there's a lot of languages too.
Yeah, it's really quite difficult because I come from New Zealand, and over here they have the Maori culture.
Yeah.
And my uncle's full-blown Maori leader or whatever. And he came over and he was saying, he couldn't understand why the Aborigines, you know, so the way that they are at the moment. And he went over to help out. And he's saying, well, the government's doing everything they can, so getting us well supported, going to education, and then, yeah, he's just going, what people don't understand is they're actually different groups, and instead of being treated as different sort of groups of people, and recognise individual groups of beings from the same all one thing, just hasn't worked. In New Zealand, the Maoris fought, and there was a treaty, and
But the Maoris were originally Polynesian, right? They migrated there also.
His picture was our other cousin.
no, I don't think so.
I'm not sure. What's your thought?
I think some of them come over on, like you have some of them coming over from the boat, so you have people from the Cook Islands and Polynesians, but the mainly ones from New Zealand. Yeah, that's where I am.
I think you'll find on the east coast they may have this talk as to whether they came to Africa and down through India and across.
We're still figuring it out, I reckon.
And yeah, there was talk of somebody said that we are from Africa. You know, that it's down the line.
Yeah, so I don't really know. It's a bit hard.
Aboriginal and Northern something Islanders or something.
Oh, that's different. Yeah, the North Island, that is a different cult.
Where is that?
Norfolk Island is like
So they'll say Aboriginals and North something.
They're like island people come off the island and come to Australia, or they've never recognised as Indigenous. Yeah. So they're not Aboriginal.
And they would be Polynesian genetically?
Norfolk Island is